Hi, friends. Welcome back to a kind of bittersweet Table Tuesday. This is now the 10th Table Tuesday, and this is actually going to be the last one for a little while. And I say a little while because I have other Nintendo tables in the pipeline. For example, they technically count the red tent as a table. Yeah, so it's not that great of a table, but it's still a Nintendo table. This one's a project machine, so it has a lot of parts all over the place. But anyway, today we're looking at Computer Othello. Computer Othello was Nintendo's first video arcade game, released in 1978. This one is in phenomenal shape. Monitor's nice and bright. Has its original instruction cards, although they have some damage or, I don't know, some kind of residue or something like that. This was probably at a cafe and it looks like they spilled a drink on here. This is before they had that felt lining on the inside of the table to help protect against that. But other than that, this machine is in phenomenal shape. So, taking a look at it, this is the original coin mech. The cash boxes aren't on the side, or I'm sorry, on the front. They're actually inside the machine. So we're going to take a look immediately. This one actually has a asset tag. I think that's an asset tag. If this would focus, it'd be nice. I'm sorry. 10 weeks of this, of fighting with my focus. There we go. Unfortunately, I don't really know. I can't read Japanese. But to me, that looks like an asset tag. So, we're going to immediately take a look on the inside. These came from the factory with Takagen 6510s. So, they have a little piece of foam to help with the coin bucket. The cash bucket's kind of unique. It was only used on this style. Flips open like this. Usually I keep all my extra parts for a machine in here. So this just has a couple screws. So, and you'll actually notice the screws are from here. They're Phillips heads. And I'll show you why in just a second. So, putting this back. Actually fits underneath that little lip right there. Looking at the coin counter, that's awesome. Less than 500 plays this machine has had. And then you might notice in the back that this is literally just a television. So they used a 12-inch sharp monitor. And basically on the other side they drilled some holes and then modded this for composite video. And you can see that you have the typical Nintendo sticker, but it's handwritten in there. And then the reason why you see Phillips heads is I made this little adapter. So I don't like putting coins in my games, and I could not figure out how to do a free play mod, so I did this. So whenever you push the coin reject, it actually pushes this little tab right here and closes the leaf switch. And that's how you put a coin in. So this guy up here is actually for adjusting the timer. So Computer Othello works by through a timer. When you put a quarter in, or I'm sorry, 100 yen piece, you get X amount of time. It goes up in increments of 100. I believe they're seconds. So I have it set to 6, meaning that it would be set to 10 minutes. And the timer is represented here. And it's actually kind of funny. Block Fever has the same cutout, but they put the sticker over it. So I don't know if you'll actually be able to see. It won't shine through. I'd have to shine from the other side. I'm sorry. So going to the other side, you'll see that mine is actually kind of interesting. It has a Sega asset tag, meaning that this was likely either in a Sega arcade or Sega had purchased this for analysis or something like that. But this thing even has the original plastic that went over the serial tag. So, and one thing that was kind of neat that I noticed is that it's only 53 watts, apparently. So, that's like half an amp that it's drawing from the wall, just about. All right, so and on this side is where all the magic is. So here's your game board. This is your standard computer Othello game board. There are a handful of revisions that I am aware of. I don't have the other ones in front of me. Why won't it focus? There we go. So this is the F revision of the PCB, as labeled here. It is an earlier revision, and the F revision has, I think, more test points, but I'm not exactly sure the differences. Then there's the, I think, G and H revisions. The G revision is the later version of this board, and then the H revision, or maybe it has an E stamp. I don't recall. I'm sorry. I should have brought that board out. I'll do another video later about it. But the later revision has some mods on the back, because that revision of the PCB, it's either E or H, or it has a stamp that says E or H. And basically what the deal is with that is it can support the timer stop kit. The timer stop kit was kind of cool because basically what it was is when it's like, say, the computer player's turn, the game would tell the timer to stop so that while the computer's thinking, you wouldn't lose your time. So, moving on, we have another little module in here. This handles coin counter activities, and I think that's all. I don't recall if it actually flips the screen. No, this doesn't flip the screen at all. So, and then you have your Nintendo COG power supply and transformer. It's all one unit in there. Moving on, here's the sides. You can see the stickers that came with it. This is the manufacturing date on it. Has a headphone jack because it's just a television. And then you have some hand-done, crudely drilled out holes. They were drilled out with a hand drill, and you can see where people made mistakes, which is kind of funny. And you can still get, and I still was finding little bits of plastic in there. It actually looks like there's a little piece of plastic on the inside there. Unfortunately, I have a screwdriver right here. There's a little piece of red plastic in there on the bottom. I don't know what that is or where it came from. I'm actually probably just going to leave that there for now. But it's probably from the monitor. Lord knows what it was for. But this thing is actually kind of weird because in terms of mounting of this, it just rests on the back. On that neck piece right there, and just has some brackets up here to keep it from moving. And you can see right there where there's marks on the bottom of or on the side of the machine from where this thing was grinding during shipping. Because this thing can just move. So it's actually kind of nothing short of a miracle that this thing made it in one piece. And here is the instructions for the inside of the machine. So yeah, that's the game board. So we're going to put this back together, and I'm going to show you the control panels, and then we're going to get started. I think I might have mentioned this, but these actually use Takagen 6510s, the same lock that they used on just about everything else. So I'm going to set it up, and we're going to play as quick of a game as I can. So this is the control panel. So you have a reset against a computer player, and then 2 players, and basically you just use these keys to move. And then the orange key is to end the game as is and judge it. The other side is fairly similar, except you don't get all the options. One thing that I've noticed is that these controls are actually tied together, meaning that player 1 can actually do some of the controls for player 2, which is kind of funny. So we're gonna get started. I'm not very good at Othello, but we're gonna do it anyways. So we're gonna insert a coin, and the timer starts just about immediately. So one player, or the player is the cross, and the computer is the squares. Oops. Oh. So basically you have to align the grid right here. So the alignment is there in here. So it ends up in that square right there. So I'm not that great at Othello, but I know the idea is you really want to get the edges. The edges, and especially the corners. Unfortunately, there's not really a whole lot to say about this, and I'm not going to make you sit through all 10 minutes of this gameplay. I'm just going to speed this up. You'll actually notice that the screen sometimes kind of flickers. I don't really know why it does that on this specific machine. There are some days where I run into the issue where it'll do that, and other days where it's perfect. So that one's kind of a mystery to me. Whenever I've had get-togethers, Computer Othello has actually been a bit of a surprising hit. People really like these board games. And I kind of get why. It's a fun 2-player game. It's not so much fun playing it by yourself, though. Kind of in a bad situation here. Oh, I just gave him the corner. Yep. That's unfortunate, because now I can't get back in there. you're gonna. Oh, I just did it again. You're gonna have to forgive the crappy gameplay. Like I said, I'm not very good at this. Regarding the kind of breathing and poor voltage regulating, that might just be a capacitor issue. But it's one of those things where I'm not sure I want to take this apart. I don't really know how I'm going to do that. So, but anyway, you guys get the gist of this. When time runs out, you'll have a message on top that'll tell you that time's out, insert another coin. But we're not going to do that here. I'm just going to click the judgment button, and basically it'll show me that it'll count up all the pieces and tell you who won. So yeah, obviously I lost because, yeah. So while I'm here, I'm actually going to show you some documentation that I have for Computer Othello. I have multiple revisions of the manual. I got the older one and newer one. And then I have the documentation for the timer stop board. It's a little addition, like I said, it's a little addition, and unfortunately, it only supports certain ROM sets, particularly the E revision ROM set. So yeah, I think it does have a E version. So, and like I said, it only supports that revision. And needs the board mods. So the hard part is that this ROM set is not dumped yet. There are 5 versions of Computer Othello that I am aware of. There's an A revision, C revision, D revision, E revision, and then there's the home console revision. At the time of recording, I do not believe that any of the revisions other than the A revision have been dumped and made available in MAME. So if you have one of these machines or a board and it has more than 3 ROMs on there, you should really consider dumping the ROMs. I have owned 3 of these board sets, none of which have had any revision other than A, but I know it exists because I've seen them. I've seen them pop up for sale, and I've seen that the home console version has it because there's an excellent account on Blue Sky and Twitter called Before Mario, and they got their hands on one and showed the inside to confirm that it was just the arcade version. So the manuals are nothing special. I didn't really go over the manuals for the other machines, but realistically, I just want to show you one particular thing, that this literally is just a television that's inside of here. You already could have pieced that together, but they even give you the model numbers, the Sharp 12P-J8R or the 12P-J8M. It's pretty cool that they even drew it in the manual and stuff like that. And all this, they went through the details of putting all this info in here. And I'm a huge sucker for when this stuff is all drawn out. Nintendo did that a lot back then. The other thing I wanted to show you, other than the pinouts, which is nice, is that there was actually pricing for replacement parts in the back of the manual, which was really interesting. So to get a new CPU board was 95,000 yen. That's a lot of money. So, and I don't have a translation a conversion at my disposal, but yeah, it's very interesting seeing just how far things have gone. You know, they also had things for like the power supply and the LED board, and I thought, once again, I can't read this, unfortunately, so I can't tell which one of these is the monitor. I feel like the monitor was in here. I know it's in Block Fever's manual. So, but yeah, this manual is much of the same. There's actually more information in here. But, oh, that's one thing I suppose we could do is I don't actually know if the pricing was exactly the same between the two. At a glance, it looks like it was. So, but yeah. Cool. That's really it. So I've rambled on enough. This video was fairly long. It's one of the longer ones that I've done. It felt like these Table Tuesdays just kept on getting longer and longer as I went through more of the details. Oh, and that was another thing that the timer stop kit came with. It came with extra instruction stickers. These actually went over the instructions on the label, and because the new revisions of the ROM set actually had an improved CPU player, which was kind of cool. So, but yeah, I don't have that kit. I have the board for it, and I'm probably going to go over the timer stop kit at some point when maybe when the ROMs are dumped and I can actually burn them for this machine. But until then, I can't really talk about it. But anyway, that's enough of that. I've rambled on enough. You've listened to me for 10 weeks now. If y'all stayed here through the whole series, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Oh, I just ran out of time in this. So you can see that I got to the 600. But that's what it's like when you run out of time. But yeah, thank you for watching. This is going to be it for now. However, this is not going to be it for the YouTube channel. You know, even though not a whole lot of people watch this stuff, I'm still going to show off stuff whenever I think it's cool. Another thing that I really want to do is, and one of my friends, he's Owl Arcade on YouTube. Hi, John, if you're watching. What he suggested is do stand-up Saturdays. I have a bunch of these uprights. None of them are on right now. But I have a lot of cool ones, including like arm wrestling. In this question mark Mario Brothers with a gun. That has its own story that I might talk about one of these days. It's a very special machine to me, actually. And then an actual Mario Brothers. In terms of Table Tuesdays, there will be at least 3 more arcade table videos in the near future. One is going to be the Red Tent. However, I have 2 more Nintendo tables that are pending shipping that I'm hopefully going to finally get the money for soon. It is very expensive to ship arcade machines, even these little tables. And unfortunately, both of these machines are across the country, so I'm going to have to figure that one out. But I just noticed one thing. The corner protectors on this are a lot smaller than they are on Block Fever, which are more like the Space Fever style. Sorry. But yeah. Thanks for watching thus far, and I will see you soon.